Hey guys, it do be your boy Chiller here. Welcome back to Pantrio. And today we finally get to work on some of the logic of our application. We're going to work in the heart and the soul of the thing, which is the database. And I'm not going to I'm not trying to build it the perfect exact way we want the end product right from the beginning. That's not how I operate. I like to start with something simple and then incrementally build on that, iterate on that stuff. That's the way I operate. I'm a smooth operator. Coast to coast, LA to Chicago. All right. So we have, what did I call it in the front end, by the way? So I said we have storage sections. Now, do I want to keep that naming? Because you can always change your nomenclature later on, but it's annoying, right? It will save me some time if I get a good name that I'm happy with right now. So sections is one, areas is another, storage areas. Region, I don't know about that. Place, I'm not feeling place. Yeah, you know what? We're gonna call it storage area. All right, that's what we're going with. There we go. Weirdness. Storage area. So we're going to have a table in our database called storage area. And what is it going to have? Well, it's definitely going to have name. And we'll probably more data later on, but for right now, storage area has a name, just like we did in our little front end mockup. And we also have item. So we're going to have a table, stores items. What do items have? Well, they also have a name for right now. Now you might say, okay, item also has a quantity, right? But no, because item is a class of thing, but you could have multiple storage areas and they could both store the same class of item, but they have different quantities. You might have five Kit Kats in the pantry, but you might have 2 Kit Kats in the fridge because you like that when it's a little cold, it has that nice kind of like brittle crispness to it. It's really nice. So what I'm saying is that we don't want to store quantity in here. So where do we want to store it? Well, we're going to use something often called a pivot table. Or maybe it's called something else. I don't know, whatever. So we're going to call this one item instance. So this is an instance of an item type being stored in a storage area. And it is going to reference both storage area and item. So an entry into this table is a glue that's saying, okay, this storage area has this item. And it has, that's not a Q, that's a G. It has a quantity of said item. So it has quantity. It's going to also have, I don't put it in here, but it's going to have 2 foreign key values. So each of these ones, item and storage area, they're all going to have ID. Everything in Laravel, typically you give it an ID, which according to some, schools of thought in database theory is not optimal, but it works really nice. And, there are really few downsides to doing it. So we have 2 IDs here. An item instance here is going to have values that reference these IDs. You'll see it once I actually write the code for it. But this is the very basics of our database. Just 3 tables in here. So let's get to it. Now, before we actually do that, let's just do a little bit of cleanup here, a little bit of housekeeping. So we're going to have controllers. And let's just get rid of all this garbage in here. We don't need this anymore. This is just some test bullshit. Dispatches jobs, validates requests. Authorizes requests. Yeah, we'll leave this in here for now. This will be our base controller class. Later on, I might actually separate it into 2 bases. One for, the Laravel API. And another one, or not the Laravel, the Vue API, and another one for, I don't know, like a programmatic API, or maybe one for front end using Blade, but whatever. We'll just have this single base right now, and that'll do us fine. Now, since we're not using those controllers, we should be able to go into resources, views. Let's just delete all these. We don't need any of these either. We're not using them. And what else? Well, in database, migrations. So what do we got here? Create failed jobs table. I don't believe we'll be using job queuing in this project, but you never know. I guess it doesn't really hurt to have it in here. Password resets. We'll probably keep that in there. So these ones will keep the way they are. Where is our providers? So our route service provider. So because we're not having web routes, I'm gonna do that. I'm going to do that. Now, for API, let's change it to Vue. All right, because this isn't a standard API that you would, consume programmatically. This is the front end for our Vue application. And I don't know, we might want to separate that from from what is being accessed by some other services or whatever, if we ever want to do that sort of thing. But configure rate limiting, 60 attempts per minute. I mean, that seems fine right now, I guess. This isn't really necessary, is it? Let's just get rid of it. Uses used by Laravel authentication. Yeah, that won't be important because our authentication is going to be via API. So that doesn't affect us. Okay, so our route service provider there. Now, where is the place where we boot our routes? All right, so here's where we can say what middleware is attached to routing groups. So this is middleware attached to every route. And I don't know, these seem normal to me. For the web, I mean, we're not using web right now, so we might as well just comment that out. Throttle API, substitute bindings. We want both of these, I believe. And here are just some middleware that have aliases that you can specify. So this seems all good to me. I'm going to commit these changes. All right, now let's implement this stuff here. So we'll start with the storage area, I guess. Now, generally, you create 3 things. When you create one of these, you create a migration that actually puts the stuff in the database. You create a model that you use to interface with the database on the Laravel side. And you often create a controller that has routes that have to do with this sort of entity in your system. So, not routes, but actions. You know what I mean. And I could create those files manually, but Laravel has some nice stuff in here. So if we go PHP artisan make model, and the name of the model is going to be, what are we going to call it again? Storage area. And we want to make it with a migration and a controller. And if we do this, there you have it. So Laravel has these kind of, lots of these little helper commands here. And they create boilerplate code for you to get you going a little bit quicker. So here we have the storage area controller. We have this create storage areas table. And what was the other thing? In the models, we have storage area. All right. So what does the table have? Well, everything generally has timestamps and ID in Laravel. Let's go into here, table, and what do we want to create here? We want to create a string, and that's going to be the name. And we can put some modifiers on it. So I don't want 2 different storage areas to be able to have the exact same name. That seems dumb to me. So we're going to make the name unique. And there you have it. And this is our table for the storage areas right now. Now here, storage area extends the model has factory. So factories are useful for doing things, especially for like for seeding the database, for testing, stuff like that. It's nice to have factories. I wonder if there's a way in the laravel make command to just, do that for me. Is now what I'm wondering here. So PHP artisan make model. I wonder if it's like F for factory. Interesting. Migration. Seed file for the model. No. Pivot. No. Okay, makes sense. So I should probably put F in there. Let's try that. Let's put F in chat. So we're going to discard all the changes in my git kraken, and we're going to go up here in MCF. The Marvel Cinematic something, I don't know. Okay, so created that. Now we should have a factory in here. And it's just a basic empty factory boy. And so, now by default, when you create models, you can fill them with an array of data that corresponds to basically their columns. But you have to specify which columns are fillable and which columns are protected. It's a little bit of a security feature. So we're going to do protected fillable is equal to, and we want the name to be fillable. Fair enough. And I believe that's all we need right now. We'll add more stuff to this as it becomes... Oh, wait a minute. I gotta... Had to redo this. Okay, so storage area controller, we'll worry about that later on. Let's create the next thing that we want here. So next one is going to be item. We also want MCF on that one. My chemical farts. There you go. Nailed it. All right, so we got more stuff, more things, and similarly, every item type should have a unique name. There's no reason to have two item classes with the exact same name. So do that, make them unique. And Bob is your uncle. It's almost identical, right? We can even do we can copy in this one, paste into here. And we'll worry about setting up the factory a little bit later. We'll put some fake data in there or whatever when we need it. But, all right. Now, the third thing is item instance, right? Now, for item instance, I think the item controller will handle operations related to item and item instances. Just because, you know what, I don't care. That's what I want to do now. That's what I feel like. Don't judge me. Item instance. And here we want a migration. We don't want a controller. And I don't know if we want a factory, but I'm going to say yes to start off with. All right. So, good. Now, item instances. Okay, so this one is a little more interesting. We're going to leave the ID because Laravel likes it when you have IDs on your things. All right, so now we have two keys that key into our other two tables. So we're going to do table, and we're going to do big integer because keys are big integer these days. And this one, the name of this is very important. So it has to have a name that's like, let's see here, storage area ID. That's the name you want for the key that goes into the storage area. Other name will make your life more complicated. We should make it unsigned because that's the way that keys are. And I think that's it. I think that's all we need, right? Shouldn't be nullable. And then we have one for item ID. Okay. Now here's where things get interesting. So we can specify that these values are foreign keys into other tables, and that will allow the Laravel driver to create things in the database, indexes and stuff like that, that make the database go fast. So, table. What is the thing? I think it's foreign. So, foreign storage area ID, I believe is how you do this. The name of the key. References ID on storage areas. So we're saying we have this foreign key. It references this key on this table. And then we can say, okay, so on delete, when that table, when the target is deleted, what do we do with this one? And we want to cascade. So on delete, wait, cascade, I think it's cascade. Yeah, it's cascade. Okay. So, I mean, yeah, if we delete the storage area, then this item instance doesn't make any sense. It shouldn't exist anymore. So we'll just automatically remove that when we remove its parent. And that works for either the storage area, the storage area, or that works for the item. So item ID references ID on items on delete cascade. Okay. So we set up our foreign keys, and you love to see it. You indeed love to see it. Okay. And don't forget table integer quantity. Yeah, I'll make it the full word. Quantities, there shouldn't be negative. I don't see a point in making them negative. There you go. So now we have our database set up. Item instance. So we take this bad boy here, go into here. Fillable should be quantity. We could make the keys also fillable. I think we will do that. There are many ways that you can set up an item and its relations, sexy ways, but just filling in the actual value of the key is something that I sometimes want to do. So I'm going to make it fillable. I guess this one would be storage area ID and item ID. Okay, so we'll make them fillable. And I think that's fine. All right, now, Laravel, Eloquent ORM. These models are from the Eloquent object relational mapping. We can give them functions that will be used by Laravel to generate queries, like to get related things. So we've hooked up our things based in the database here, based on these keys. Now we hook them up in the actual, the class mapping here. So where is instance? Here we go. All right, so to get from instance to, let's say, the storage area of the instance, we would do like this: public function. The name is important. So storage area, like this with camel case. And what do we do? What do we do here? It's just like this, right? And then we do return this pointer to belongs to and storage area class. So we give the name of the class that it belongs to. And this will, with this information alone, Laravel will be able to figure out what kind of SQL query needs to be executed to get the storage area that this instance belongs to. And we can do the same for the item belongs to item class. Nope. Class. There we go. All right. So here we get the two things that it belongs to. And from item, we want to get the instance. So again, now this is different because a single item can have multiple instances, right? Multiple instances of it being existing in multiple areas. So what we could do here is we could return this has many item instance class. There you go. Beautiful. And the same story exists for storage area. Storage area has many item instances, obviously. All right. Now, one more little fancy thing that we can do here. So instance, item instance is a pivot between an area and an item. But for any given area, let's say you have the area of the freezer, and let's say you have the item sirloin steak, right? You wouldn't want to have two pivots, two separate pivots that connect those two specific entities, right? You wouldn't want to have one item instance of 3 sirloin steaks in the freezer and another of 2 in the freezer. You'd want to consolidate them into one. So we never want to have two pivots that point to the exact same two entities on the left side and the right side. So to prevent that from happening, we can add another constraint to the table. Unique. And it is unique across 2 columns. So for any given combination of storage area ID and item ID, you can only have one of those combinations. And that'll make things better, and it might actually make things faster because unique implies having an index there usually. So it's good. There's some sexiness that we add in there. Probably, I don't know, we'll see. Maybe I got the syntax wrong. But yeah, let's see if we can run the migration. So let's run the migration fresh. We can get rid of those dummy user thing rows that were in the database. So PHP artisan. I get tired of typing PHP artisan every time. Let's go cd tilde. All right, a nano. Okay, what is the file? I believe it is .bashrc. Okay, so here we can put a bunch of bullshits in here. And what we want, yeah, so we've got aliases here. Some more ls aliases. Laravel aliases. Okay. Alias art equal to PHP artisan. I like that. Exit. Now I believe, I don't know why, but source bashrc is something that we need to do. I don't know, dot bashrc. Why is it alias artisan not found? What if I just try it? Art. Okay, it's probably good to put these things in quotations. All right. Source .bashrc. Okay. Now, cd pantrio art migrate fresh. All right. Now, the next logical step that we probably want to take is we want to actually expose this the data in our database to the Vue front end. And there's a bunch of different ways we could do this, and I'm just gonna mess around and see what works. But the way we output the data, I mean, there's a few ways we could do it, right? We could output, 3 arrays. So we could output an array areas and items and instances, and just output all those to the front end. And each of them will have, the IDs and the foreign keys, FK and the coffee. And yeah, it'll just work on the front end like it works on the back end. The keys will be references to IDs, and we'll have to do lookups into these different arrays to get access to them. So that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it might be like you have areas, and each of those areas, so that's an array of objects, and each of those has an array of instances. Like that. Yeah. And then you would have your array of items. And inside these, the objects here, each one of these would reference into here. So we're sort of like flattening it a little bit, but we're not losing any denormalization, if that makes sense to you. Now we could make it super flat, and the way you would do that, ironically, it's not flat at all. I'm just using words arbitrarily here, but you'd have areas, and yeah, in your area you would have just items, and so that would take the data from each of these items and just duplicate it. So in multiple areas you would have, you know, duplicate instances of item names in there, and this is basically what we have in our mockup. And I think this would be easier to handle on the front end side. On the back end side, we'd have to transform the data from these separate arrays into this data structure here. And there's probably like really sexy ways of doing that in Laravel, but we could probably start off with just doing it manually, and then, you know, maybe I'll research some sexier ways of doing it and show you in a later iteration. But let's start off with this, because if we do it this way, our front end won't have to change that much, I don't believe. All right. So in our storage area controller, I'm going to make a function. I like to put the public in there, even though they're public by default. We're going to make a function called, I don't know, we'll just call it retrieve. Retrieve all storage areas. This gets all the storage areas, but with their relationships. Everything. Get it all. Give me all the things. Now, question is, how do I want to do this? Well, I mean, it's going to start off something like areas is equal to storage area all. Something like that, but not quite. So when we have all the storage areas, because Laravel has mechanisms where it will automatically serialize your models to JSON. And that's what I would want to be using, but it's going to require a little bit of work to get it to do what we want to do. And we don't even know exactly what we want to do yet. We're just trying things out. So we're not going to use that sexy mechanism yet, but we might upgrade to it in the future. Right now, we're just going to do simple loops. We're just going to keep it simple. So let's just say output empty array. So for each areas as area. Loop over all the areas. For each area, so area data is equal to area pointer to JSON. So first we're going to convert the area to JSON and put that Do we want to do it though? I think we want to just convert it to an array, because all this stuff is an array, and then we return the array and it all gets converted to JSON at the very end. Yeah, that makes more sense. So we'll convert the data for that area to an array. Then in area data, items is an empty array. So now we want to go through each item in the area. So then we go for each area pointer to item instances as instance. Now here, I believe we won't have IntelliSense, right? It doesn't know what this is. So Laravel has a thing. We created this relation here, right? If we call it with the brackets here, it'll return a query that we can build on. But if we just call it as if it were a property, then it will actually execute the query and return us a collection of all the results. So this is going to be a collection of the results, and this is going to be a single item instance. But PHP Storm doesn't know about that. We can teach it about that if we install some tooling for Laravel, and then it'll be able to give us nice code completion on all that stuff. But we won't install it right now. I might install it off screen actually, or I might do it in a different video. So instance, I don't like working without IntelliSense. It annoys me. So instance, we'll just call it inst data is equal to instance to array. So now we get the data from the instance, but every instance also has a name, because we're gonna flatten the information into the item. So we want to also add the name in there. So instance data name is equal to instance pointer to item pointer to name. There you go. This is how easy it is to jump from table to table when you have Laravel ORM. It's very clean. And I mean, that should be all the data flattened. We probably want to put in the item ID in there as well. But we don't need it right now. We'll want to have it later on, because when the front end updates something, it'll probably want to know the item ID. But right now, it's fine. So we'll do this. Then once we have the instance data done, we do area data items. This is how you push back into an array in PHP, and put the instance data. So the array of items is just built up from this instance data. And then when you're done this, that means we're done the data for that area. So the output, we're just going to tack area data onto the end of the output array. And then here, I'm going to return output. And that should be that. I'm just remembering now, I think I missed something when I was doing my cleanup. Web.php, we don't want any routes in here. Save that. Doesn't matter, because this won't actually be executed, because I commented out the stuff in the route service provider, but still. API. Get rid of that. And I'm actually... No. Well, nah, never mind. Okay, so route get section areas, and that is going to go into storage area controller at retrieve. Where? Okay, so we have this in there. We have this in there. What could possibly go wrong, right? Well, I mean, first of all, we probably want to be able to seed our database with some data. Now, if you look in the user factory, you can see it's using something called Faker. And this can generate just random things, all sorts of different things. We'd like to have that. We'd like to generate random things for all of our things. So for example, name of the storage area. This pointer to Faker, pointer to. Now what do we have here? Name, blood group. There's a lot of things in here. So let's have it create a sentence and in B words, just a 3-word sentence. But the important thing is that, yeah, we want it to be unique. So we don't want it to generate the same sentence twice. PHP Storm, you're doing me dirty. Unique sentence, 3-word sentence. Yeah. So this should give us a nice name of the thing. It's just give us 3 random words basically. And we want to do that the same thing for the storage area and for the item. Just some random words. And for the item instance, we would like to generate it with quantity. This Faker random number between we'll say 0 and 15. Sure. Seems good to me. All right. Another thing we could do is we could just manually create the seeding data. And I think that's what we're going to do for right now. We're not going to big brain it. We're not going to create some kind of automated random generation that gives us a really nice data set, at least not right now. We'll do that when it is necessary. So in the case of doing it manually, this stuff that we have here is all just perfect. That's all we need. So now we go to our seeders, database seeder. So we're not going to seed users. We're going to go. So first of all, storage area, factory. So let's create 4 storage areas. And we'll just do this areas. So we have 4 storage areas. And we have items. And yeah, we'll create items like this. And here is where things get interesting. So, 4. No, we're not going to do 4 loop. Like I said, we're just going to manually do it. So, item, instance, factory. We're not going to put a number in here. And then we'll create. And we're going to create with some parameters. And those parameters are going to be item ID, and this should be a number between, because we have 8 items, should be a number between 1 and 8. So let's have item 1, and what is it? Storage area ID 1. All right, it's gonna put the storage area first there. Okay, so in storage area 1, we're going to have item ID 1, we're going to have item ID 3, we're going to have item ID 4. In storage area 2, we're going to have item ID 7. We're going to have item ID 8. In storage area 3, we're not going to have anything. And in storage area 4, we are going to have, let's see, we have 1, 3, 4, 5, 7, so we're gonna have 2, 5, we're gonna have 2, and we're gonna have 6. We're gonna have 1 item that isn't in any area. Just, it might be good to have that case covered. So now 5 does not exist anywhere. The rest of the items exist in places. We don't have any duplicate items. So in area 4, we're also going to duplicate item 3. And so here's our just a very simple seeding of the database. And there we go. I didn't actually need to keep these arrays here. If I wanted to be nicer about it, I could look into the array and get the ID from there instead of just dead reckoning hard coding it in here, but it should be fine. We will trust that this will be fine, certainly for now. So now we run artisan database seed. Probably get an error. Nope. Did not get an error. That is surprising. Well, let's go sudo mysql pantrio. So we select star from items and we get this. So because we put it as a sentence, we're getting periods at the end, but it doesn't matter for now. I might change that later on. It's a little weird. They're also in Latin, which is kind of weird, but we're not going to worry about it too much. We're not going to sweat it. And we could do similarly for storage areas and for item instances. So here we can see it's got our foreign keys into storage area, item, and quantity 143825510. Yeah, it looks good. It looks like we have data. This should be something that we can use to test our retrieve. Now, to test this, we could, code up our front end and spin it up, test that way. But I like to use a little tool. Let me see if I can use it today without doxing myself somehow. All right, so get request. Pantr.io. This is I don't know what this. It's called Advanced REST Client. You can get this. It's kind of a thing. It's kind of a Chrome thing, but it's a standalone. I don't know what it is, but it works. So Pantrio, view, and areas, I believe is what we called it. Let me just get back into here. Let me get back into AP. Where's the API? API. Yeah, areas. That should map to this. Storage area controller. And if we run this with content type application JSON, accept application JSON, send. And we got it. So we have an array, 4 items. Those are our 4 areas. So let's just, yeah, looks good. So first area has 3 items, then 2, then 0, then 3 again. And this seems to jive with what I set up in my seeding. We have the timestamps, we have the name, the ID, everything you need. And then each of these items here, we have the ID of the instance, and then the ID of the storage area, the quantity, and the name. So this data should be acceptable. So I'm going to commit the changes to the database. We'll just call it basic database prototype. Good. Okay. So now let's just to wrap things up here, let's just quickly check it out in the front end. And I'm not going to do it with Vuex right now. I might do that in the next video. I think this video is probably getting pretty long now. Actually, you know what? Never mind. I'm going to do it in the next video. So in the next video, we're going to be continuing on with this stuff. We're going to be, exploring this on the front end side, seeing what we like, seeing what we don't like, probably getting it into Vuex, and then we're taking it from there. Until then, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please click the like button, helps a lot. And I will see you soon with some more Pantrio.